Wigan Market Hall, The Final Days. That's the title of our film. Coming here today and seeing the hustle and bustle of Wigan Market Hall, it's very difficult to believe that this will close in 3 or 4 months' time. The old Market Hall here in Wigan is being demolished. Already its counterpart, which will take shoppers in Wigan into the 21st century, is being built around the corner. When you see this film, Wigan Market Hall will have been bulldozed. The traders will have gone, the stall holders will have gone, most important of all, the shoppers will have gone. But most important, the special atmosphere which sums up Wigan Market Hall will also have disappeared. It's taken just 110 years to create that atmosphere. If I can capture that special atmosphere on this film, then my job will have been a good one. But you'll be the judge of that. So come on, let's make a last visit to Wigan Market Hall. A long visit, a lingering visit, but it will be the last visit.
No, I don't think so. Brand new.
That'll be all right, yeah.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
We've come here to the sweet stall of Jim O'Brien to ask particularly if Wiganers have a sweet tooth. What would you say about that, Jim?
Yes, I would say they have a very sweet tooth.
Yeah. What are their favourite sweets?
The old-fashioned sweets, humbugs, bird drops, cough sweets, licorice, all sorts.
Are the cough sweets particularly popular with older people or not?
With older people, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, they are.
How did you come to have your stall here in the Market Hall? Because I know you've been here for 30 years.
Well, I was working on the railway at the time. I applied for the stall as it became vacant. I got the stall, and the wife then ran it for a couple of years, 2 years, until we got established, and then I took over.
It has been something of a family concern over the years, hasn't it?
It has, it has.
Who else has worked on it besides yourself and your wife?
My mother, sister-in-laws. There's the years have gone by and they've died and what have you.
Yeah. How do
I'm
you...
down to assistants now.
We all know that the battle to save Wigan Market Hall was lost, and the purpose of this film is to capture the atmosphere. How would you describe the atmosphere of Wigan Market Hall?
More or less a family atmosphere, which I don't think will ever be recaptured in the new market.
Yes. Do you think that you'll take a stall in the new market? Some stallholders tell me they will.
Well, I've not made my mind up yet, for certain.
Yeah. How do you think you'll feel when it does come to the final days in January when the place closes?
Very sad. It's the end of an era, isn't it? It's just the end of an era. It's a sad day.
Thanks, Jim. Near to the entrance of Wigan Market Hall, there's been Bill Worsley's stall. Well, it's Worsley's stall, really, but Bill's been here for 40 years. Can you tell me something about your stall, Bill?
Well, it was started by my parents, over 60 years ago. We had 2 stalls, now we're down to 1. We shall only have 1 in the new market. We do glass, china, fancy goods, silks, flowers.
I see here you've got a lot of mugs. Do you think that the tea drinking habits of Wiganers have changed over the years?
Well, they've always drank a lot of tea, but certainly the trade has changed in so much as we sell many more beakers and mugs now than we do cups and saucers.
Yes. Do you still have lots of china tea sets, or are they becoming a thing of the past?
Again, it's a trend that's changed. Where we used to sell dozens a week of china tea sets, now we sell an odd 1 or 2. They tend to have more, again, beakers, mugs, plates, more oddware.
When I come into Wigan Market Hall these days, I see that your mum's not here anymore, and Gladys, of course, who's 86 now, was a regular feature. Will you tell me something about your mum?
Well, Mum's been working on the stall since long before I was born, and I'm 59. Up to 12 months ago, when she was taken ill, I'm afraid, she came down every day and took an active part in the business. Now I'm afraid she can't get down anymore.
How do you think she viewed the end of the Market Hall?
Very sad, very sadly. Possibly more so than some of us. We kind of used to change. We have to accept it. Well, the older generation, I'm afraid, can't accept it just quite the same.
People constantly talk about the loyalty of the customers here. What would you have to say about them?
I don't think there's any better customers in the world. Market people and Wigan people. I don't think the Southerners would do what Northern people do.
When foreigners come to the market hall, as I know they do, and especially Americans, how do they view the place?
It's difficult, that. I think they just can't imagine it being anything like this, really. Something completely different from anything they know.
Considering that the market hall is on its last legs, so to speak, and you wouldn't appreciate that looking at the activity today, how do you think this atmosphere will change as it approaches the final closing in January?
I think there'll be a build-up of sadness. I mean, we get it now amongst customers saying, oh, they're not going to pull this market down, are they? People who have left Wigan and come back to the town, they sometimes feel it, I think, more than people actually in the town. Yeah. I've had numbers of people come to me and say this.
Have you made a decision whether you'll make the short trip across to the new market hall?
Well, we'll have to go. We've got to make a living. We must go and try.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Oh, it's got one.
Well, we're back here outside Wigan Market Hall now, and we've come to talk to Barry Grindley at the Key Stall, and he runs this stall along with his brother Stuart. Barry, how did this stall come to be set up?
Long time ago, 1947, an uncle of mine, Mr. Ross, started it off with his amazing visit. He had a market in Salford, and my uncle had this market, and I remember him saying they worked the Saturday, the first full day, and they rang each other up at the end of the day's work and said, "How have you gone on?" So his mate said, "Oh, I've had a bad day." He said, "I've taken 12 and 6. And he said, "Well, I've had an even worse day." He said, "I took 7 and 6.
And that's how it all started?
That's how it all started, from then, yeah.
How does this scene here outside the market hall differ now from when you began?
It's a lot more stalls, a lot busier. When I first started off, I can remember it only being a 2 or 3 day open market outside. And now it's, as you know, it's 5.5 days now.
And you were one of the first stalls here outside, weren't you?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Are people more security conscious these days than years ago?
Yep, certainly are, yep. With all the, our violent society, unfortunately.
And in fact, you do more than cut keys. There are other strings to your bow, aren't there?
Yes, we do engraving, we do glass engraving, which we just started off a couple of years ago, which is, it's very popular now.
Yeah. How do you feel that when you think that in a year's time this will have gone completely?
It'll be a great shame, a great shame. I think Wigan will lose a lot of its character. But that's progress. We have to progress, I suppose.
What are the reaction of your customers here? Do you think that they're looking around here today? It's even difficult for us to believe that it's going to go. Do you think the customers acknowledge that in January the doors will be locked for the last time?
Yes, they will be very, very sad. I remember when they first decided to knock the market down. I think we had a bit of a petition, and the response was amazing, actually. You know, the vast majority of people in Wigan don't want it to be knocked down, really.
Yeah, this is what seems to me that most people say they wish it was staying. If it was staying, what would you like it to stay in its present form, or would you have altered it?
I would certainly alter the inside market. But not being an expert on those, I don't really know, you know, in what way. Obviously, there is room for improvement, you know.
And the final question is, are you going to go to the new market?
Yes, hopefully, yes.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
There's a bit of width as well, we should give him plenty of room to play the stroke.
John, you're the main man here at Wigan Market. How long do you go back in markets generally?
Oh, since I left school in 1959, I've spent 12 years in Liverpool, 5 years at Birkenhead, and then I've been here since July 1975 with Wigan.
How does Wigan Market Hall compare with the other markets?
With the other markets I've been at, very, very similar in actual fact, but in Liverpool we had the All St John's Market Hall, which unfortunately gave way many years ago to the Arndale or the Ravenseth development, which is now Liverpool city centre. Birkenhead also had a Victorian Market Hall, which was about 30 years older than ours here. That unfortunately burnt down in, I think it was in November of 1974, and again was replaced by a concrete type jungle. Ours here, as you're obviously very aware, is due to go in January of 1988, and we're being replaced by something far in advance of an Arndale type development.
You more than anybody are aware every day of the arrival of the new market because it's being built right outside your office window here. But what can you tell me about the old market? How is it split up into various sections?
Well, the old Market Hall as such was largely the brick building that we see at present. The original hall was that was built and opened in 1877 was just the what is now in the main the miscellaneous dry goods hall. The fruit and vegetable market, the retail fruit and vegetable market, and the half a dozen fish shops which are on the Market Street and Hope Street corner of Woodcock Street, Hope Street corner, sorry, were added round about 1954, and I have it on reasonably good authority that they, and indeed the Market Street shops, which has the Market Street Shops Arcade, which we've now nicknamed Petticoat Lane, were also added around the same time, and it was felt in that they were there really to strut up the Market Hall, which even in those days was beginning to lean out into Market Street a little bit.
It's surprising looking at Wigan Market Hall today, so near to its final closure in 3 or 4 months' time, because it's still a very happy and a very active place. Do you notice any difference since all the final decisions have been made that it should go?
I notice, yes, in the main, as you're obviously very well aware, there was quite a public outcry when the council first moved that we would have a new market hall, or a new town centre in fact. There's, you know, the public petitions and what have you. The market traders themselves, market traders are very, very reluctant to change. They're very resistant to change in general, and at that stage they were up in arms and couldn't see any reason why we didn't refurbish what we have, and rather than spend a lot of money, etc. But again, that was probably looking after their own interests. They didn't want business to go down in a period where there might have been a transition between one building and another and so on. But I think largely since the decision was finally made and signed, sealed and delivered that we were having a new hall, in the main I think the traders have accepted it, possibly far more than we may have been led to believe would apply. And I think in the main now, although they're obviously a little apprehensive that toll charge levels will be proportionally higher than they are in the present market hall, they are in the main looking forward to the opening of the new one, and I'd like to think that we as an authority have generated some enthusiasm that we all want to be across there with a common aim of making it work. You know, I think the last thing that we need is anybody going across with a chip on the shoulder complaining about what might have been and what could have been, etc. We've got to go over with an enthusiasm and a vigour that will ensure that the new markets are better than this one. We've got to aim for that.
John, tell me something of how continuity of trading will be achieved when the market hall closes in January.
Right, well, I suppose in one word, and a one-word answer on that, I think we're going to be chaotically. But having said that, in theory, what we are being given is the authority to take possession of the new market building, the present date being the 2nd of January of 1988, and the existing market hall comes under the bulldozer 21 days thereafter. So effectively, we've got to move probably something in the region of 170 businesses, lock, stock and barrel, if indeed that is what the traders are planning to do. We've got to get them transferred physically from the existing building here into the new one, set up all within that 3-week period. So as I say, I think it's going to be rather chaotic. Obviously there's going to be problems, particularly in the food businesses, butchers and the cooked meat type of people who are having to have refrigerators, counters and walk-in fridges and this type of thing purpose-built for the new market. Much of what they have in the existing hall here is probably not transferable anyway, but one way or another we do have to get out of here by the on paper the 23rd of January before the bulldozer actually flattens it. We have to give vacant possession to the main contractor, and that is under quite severe penalties, so I'm led to believe.
In Victorian times there were various rows as to what Wigan's Market Hall would be like. Then we come to modern times, and of course a lot's been said about saving the Market Hall, but the decision is it's to go. How long will it take to actually flatten it?
Oh, now then, I'm sorry, Geoffrey, I don't know whether I can answer that one. Based on the way they demolished Crank and Burton's buildings, I would imagine fairly quickly. I think once they have vacant possession of the site, watching the way, as I say, they've worked around the old Morrison's buildings and the Crank and Burton's building in the corner of Woodcock Street, I would imagine that we're talking fairly quickly, although I really don't know. I can't answer you exactly on that one, I'm afraid.
And what will arise on this site?
Effectively phase 2 of the town centre redevelopment scheme. Our market and the Morrisons, the new Morrisons, I think there's a Boots and Mother Care and about a dozen smaller shop units which are all behind these building line that you can see behind me. They constitute phase 1 of the development. Phase 2 will come on stream with the demolition of the existing hall and the surrounding buildings, and the phase 2 will replace that, and the whole scheme linking up effectively right from down on Newmarket Street right up to Standish Gate with covered shopping and malls and walkways is all due for completion by the middle of 1990 or thereabouts. And phase 2 will also include the new open market part of our development, which for technical reasons had to be left, rather than we could have had half of the open market in phase 1 and half in phase 2, and that was deemed not to be a very prudent idea.
Without doubt then, busy days and days of change for Wigan in the future.
I think so, Geoffrey. I can't see me having much Christmas holiday this year. I mean, as I understand it, we may be working Christmas Day, Boxing Day and right throughout the piece, but it's a challenge I'm really looking forward to, and you know, I hope everybody in Wigan benefit from it. I'm certain that they will in the fullness of time, but we've got problems to overcome, and I suppose only time will tell.
John, thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Geoffrey.
A poet once said that a robin redbreast in a cage threw all heaven in a rage. Well, the customers of Wigan Market Hall know that there are plenty of wild birds fluttering about in here, but when you come up to take a bird's eye look at the hall, you see some very interesting features. Well, that's part of our look at Wigan Market Hall in 1987, but there's a different story to be told, and it goes back 120 years. Wigan wins long fight for a market. So ran a headline in the Wigan Observer over 11 decades ago. It's clear. Not only did people fight to save the market hall at the end of its life, but Victorian Wiganers found themselves in bitter rows long before the first bricks were laid in the 1870s. Markets have always been a part of Wigan. Our ancestors ran them illegally at least 30 years before King Henry III signed the charter for the first market in the town in 1245. This charter was granted to the parson of Wigan, a great royal favourite, and for 600 years Wigan's market was in the old marketplace itself. On trading days, the surrounding streets became choked with stalls and peddlers and pavement vendors. Chaos reigned in much the same way as in the final days around the market hall. A writer of the day described the streets as a bedlam of trading activity which shows very little regard for hygiene or the public's comfort in bad weather. Change was to come, but at a snail's pace. In the last century, wise men on Wigan Council realised that the haphazard and overcrowded marketplace was an inconvenience the town could no longer afford. Yet, there were many difficulties in the way of change, and it was to be years before Wigan opened its market hall. Reorganising the market system of Wigan was first suggested at a council discussion in 1837, 40 years before the market hall was a reality. But there were problems from the start because the original toll rights had been granted to the Wigan rectors. A mayor of the time, Rhys Bevan, expressed the hope that someday a market house will be built in Wigan. He never lived to see the day. But there was always fervent interest in a market hall, and the council's General Purposes Committee introduced a bill for improvements in the borough, the members planning not one covered market, but two. One in Millgate, the other in Scholes. But the schemes ran into rough seas in the shape of land buying and the tolls. It seemed the time still wasn't right, and the plans foundered. But the human batteries had been charged, and a dreaded outbreak of cholera, which killed hundreds of Wiganers, played a vital part in the resurrection of the plans. In 1849, a government inspector travelled to Wigan, saw the unhygienic market conditions, and declared, "A market house will be built in this town." Fine words indeed, but 2 years later, the then mayor, Ralph Darlington, was telling his fellow councillors that though it might be possible to lease the church tolls, it would be impossible for the local authority to finance a new market hall. The good men and true talked on and on and on. The 1850s melted into another decade, and finally the rector's rights were bought for £2,000, but 7 years were to pass before a market committee recommended the present site as best buy. Victorian Wiganers were tired of the talk of a new market hall. When would it be built, they cried. And still long delays and snags haunted the grand scheme. But the year 1872 saw light at the end of the tunnel. It was then the Wigan Improvement Act was granted from Parliament, and the green light was given to the market hall. Many grandiose plans were submitted. Every one was turned down, but in 1875 the talking was over. A design competition was officially organised, and Mr. C.B. Holmes of Cross Street Sawmills off Chapel Lane in Wigan secured the contract. the new market hall and surrounding buildings would cost a princely £12,000. In his history of Wigan Market Hall, writer Cliff Webb said, "By the time work on the place began, 40 long years had passed, during which time an idea by staid Victorian businessmen had progressed from being a futuristic dream to the hard reality of bricks and mortar. What had once been the subject of argument and heated dissent had become the pride and joy of every civic leader in the town. The council was at last implementing what was probably its wisest decision. Wigan Market Hall was built sturdy and strong. That's why it stood the test of time, serving generations of Wiganers through the greatest changes in the long and illustrious history of the town. But all good things must come to an end." It's another day in the market hall, one day nearer to the final day. In a corner of the market hall there's Bailey's pot stall, and it's been here for a considerable number of years. You'll see when you look around that it's unaltered, and I've come here to talk to the assistant, Rita Mussell, to find out why it's the same. Rita?
It's never changed because the family never liked to change it much, but they were supposed to take this corner out to make an exit for good deliveries and what have you, you know, but they never got round to doing it, so it's been like this now for about 40 odd years, I think.
Do your customers like it like this?
Yes, they like the old-fashioned part of the market. That's what they like best of all. They come from America, Japan, Germany, all over the world, just to see what it's like here.
Do they say that they've got anything like a Wigan Market Hall in their countries?
No, there's nothing like it abroad. That's why they like it, I think. That's why they don't like the new one and all.
And a quick personal reaction from you about the closing of this hall?
It's a great loss to Wigan. I think they should have done like Bolton's done and refurbished it.
Thanks, Rita.
You're welcome.
Tom Church, you've been at this stall for 4 or 5 years, and it's one of the more unusual ones in the market hall. Why did you decide to do it like this?
Well, we've one in Blackpool and one in Burnley, and we've done them all like this. Like it seems to be our system, like of doing them, like, you know.
And in addition to this varied selection of nuts, what else do you sell?
Well, there's dried fruit and herbs and spices, like.
How do you feel that this market's closing?
Not very pleased, like, really, but I think in years to come it will be for the better, like, you know. When it all get parking and that gets sorted out, like, this seems to be the main thing today, like, you know.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Bradshaw, you've been here in the market hall 40 years. You're a great personality of the place. How do you feel that in a few months' time it's finished?
Well, at the very first I thought it was sad, but we realise, of course, that things have got to move with the times, and it wouldn't stay up much longer anyway. It had to come eventually, so sooner the better. That's my views. I'll be sorry to see it go, but it can't stay.
Are there any of your customers who share that view, say, off with the old and on with the new?
I don't think so, not a lot of them. Maybe an odd one or two, but the amazing part about the whole issue is it's the younger element that are sad to see it go.
Yes.
I think what's happened here is all the upset outside has upset the older people. And they want to get on with it. But it's the younger element that seems to want to keep it. Which is amazing.
How's the atmosphere of the market hall changed over the years?
Not as friendly. It's more cutthroat. That's my views.
And are you going to transfer to pastures new?
All being well, yes.
Harold, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, it's Friday morning and the market hall's as busy as ever. I've come here to see Mrs. Eunice Latham, who works on Adam's stall, and they sell hardware, brass, fancy goods. Eunice, how long have you been here?
9 years.
9 years. And do you enjoy working?
Oh,
in the
I do.
market
It's
hall?
great.
Yeah.
Great.
A little bird tells me that, in fact, you still sell donkey brands.
Yes, we do.
Have you got any?
Yes,
Come on,
quite a few.
have a look at one. I thought those had gone out about 20 years ago.
Oh, no.
How many do you sell a week?
Well, I can't tell you exactly, but we do sell a lot. Yeah.
So people still donkey stone their step?
Oh, yes, yes.
What about your step? Do you?
All round outside, yes, honestly.
Yeah. Why did people do that? Was it sort of out of pride?
Well, I should imagine so, yeah. Cleanliness, like, yeah.
And where are they made? Is it a Lancashire firm that still makes them?
Oh, yes. Somebody in Lancashire what makes them, yeah.
What about some other old things from years ago? Dolly Blues?
Dolly Blues, yes, yeah. And
what about the Dolly Creams?
No, they don't make them.
Oh, I wonder why that
I've
is.
no idea.
What was the difference between a Dolly Blue and a Dolly Cream?
Well, the Dolly Blues are like whitening things, you know, and the creams are like a tint.
Yeah.
The tinting.
Yeah. What about leaving the market hall? Will you be sorry?
Very sad indeed. I will personally, I mean, there's people a lot older than me.
Yeah.
And there'll be a few tears shed when it closes, from my point of view anyway.
Thanks, Eunice. Keep looking at it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I've come to Dolby's cooked meat stall here to talk to Joanne Wayne from Standish and Elizabeth Maguire from Ashton, who are both assistants. Joanne, what are your early memories of the market hall? Were you brought as a child?
I was about 10, and I was about 10 roughly. Just round the market shopping next door, which I didn't really like.
Why didn't you like the stall next door?
I just had to eat tripe and I didn't really like it, so it's just run off.
And what about today? Do you often nip there now for half a pound of fat seam?
No, I don't. I've sampled it, but I don't like it anymore.
What about you, Elizabeth? How long have you worked here in the market hall?
I've worked here for about a year now.
And do you enjoy your work here?
Yes, very much. It's good company.
What about the customers? Do you come to know them?
You come to know, you know which ones are a bit dodgy.
When you say a bit dodgy, how do you mean?
But, you know, they get in a bad mood or they want everything that's, you know, they have to have it really nice.
And will you be moving to the new market hall in a few months?
Yes, we will.
And what about you?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Subtly tripe. Well, any interviews in the market hall would be incomplete without coming to talk to members of the Sutcliffe family who've had a tripe stall for 60 years here. And I've come to talk to Jim Sutcliffe, who today runs the stall with his wife Joan. Tell me something about tripe, Jim.
Well, I've been associated with tripe all my life, and so has my father and my grandfather before him. So we've virtually got 3 generations of experience in the tripe business. It's still very popular in the Wigan area. It's also popular abroad. Many other countries in the world are eating tripe also now.
Is it good for you?
Well, there is more protein in a pound of tripe than there is in a pound of meat, and it's also non-fattening. And in fact, these days we're finding with the people being so conscious about health and fitness and dieting and so on, that we're getting a lot of people coming here now from health and fitness places, from Keep Fit classes, because they've been told that they can eat tripe without any fear of putting weight on, and it's also very good for you.
So can I interpret that as meaning that young people are starting to eat tripe?
A lot of young people, in fact, it's always been said that mostly older people eat tripe, which is still, of course, true. But we are finding nowadays that a lot of younger people are coming because of the points I made earlier.
What else do you sell in addition to tripe?
Well, we sell a range of cooked meats, we sell pies, we sell even haggis from Scotland we sell. Various ranges of cooked meats, black puddings of course, and hopefully in the new market we'll be putting on a range of delicatessen foods also.
So in other words, you're going to sort of upmarket your image a bit, because delicatessen and tripe seem to be sort of 2 different worlds.
Well, I wouldn't think so, because if you go, we've supplied in the past, we've supplied stores like Harrods, where that's where the tripe is, on the delicatessen counter. And all that I feel that we would want to do is to broaden the range of products that we sell for the people coming into the new market in Wigan.
I'm looking forward to that move.
Very much so, yes, very much so. You're welcome. Thank you.
Can I just stop and ask you what you think about the closing of the market hall?
It's bloody diabolical.
Will you be very sorry to see it?
Yeah, certainly. A lot more people will too.
What do you think the council should have done?
They should have done better with it than what they were doing with our side. They could have renovated this up.
Your life will be poorer without it.
I think everybody's life in Wigan will be poorer without it, because that'll be a dear place to be a white elephant, in my opinion.
Thanks a lot. Well, it won't be with us much longer. What do you think of the fact that the market hall's going to go?
I don't know, really.
Are you sad?
Yes, really, yeah.
How long have you been coming here?
Oh, 50 years or more.
Yes. What was it like when you were a little lad?
When I was a little lad, well, we had the fairground outside, horse sales, the open
Penny
market
stall.
then, of course.
Are there any penny stalls today?
No, not today, no.
But you're sad that it's finally gone?
Yes, we are.
Well, if you could spend the money far better refurbishing it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Taxpayers' money, incidentally. Great players.
Right, thank you.
Market Hall's coming to the end of its life. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't shop a lot in Wigan, but I would like to see the new one. You know, sort of being young and that, and sometimes I shop in Wigan and I do come in the old part of it. But it's like anything else, like the Irondale, everything's getting bigger and bigger. But
so you
it would be a shame, but I look forward to the big ones, just to see what it's like, really.
Thanks a lot.
You know, okay.
Hi.
Oh, thank
Got
you.
your change there. Can I just ask you what you think about the fact that the Market Hall's closing?
Oh, I think it's terrible. We got used now to it.
How long have you been coming here?
Oh, ever since I can remember.
Yeah. Why do you like the Market Hall?
Because they're friendly and that, you know.
Nice atmosphere?
Yes.
Yeah. What about the new one?
Well, I've not seen it yet, so I don't know how that will be.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Can I just stop you and ask you what you think of the Market Hall closing?
Well, I thought they could have held on to it and repaired it and got it up to standard, you know. I think we're going to spend a lot of money on this one outside. And I think it's coming probably about 10 years too late, the new one.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think plenty of these other places around Lancashire have got these new facilities a lot earlier than Wigan.
So you think Wigan may have missed the boat?
Well, I think it's a bit late, but even so, I think they could have kept on to the old market, you know, which a lot of people like.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks.
Alice Hitchin on the electrical stall. Alice, you come here from your home in Kit Green every day.
That's
You
right,
come on the
love.
bus.
Yes.
What about the Market Hall closing? How do you feel about it?
Oh, sad. Very sad, yes. Not be the same, love, you know. Got all our own customers and I got all the old people and fix them up with torches and put the batteries in the torches and that's it.
So, so you give a real personal service?
Oh, I try to, yes. Yes.
Do you think the atmosphere of the Market Hall has changed since the decision was made that it should go?
Well, I think so, because everybody, I think they're all sad, you know, and they're all wondering, will it pay or what, you know, so...
Are you having a stall at the new place?
Yes, I'm going to give it a try, yeah.
Yes.
Because I think some of my customers will be upset if I don't, because they still ask me, am I going in? They'll come and look for me, so this is it.
Has the lighting changed over the years? Do you sell anything different now than 25 years ago?
No, I wouldn't say, love. No. Oh, it's just the same.
But more modern?
More modern, yeah.
Alice, thanks a lot.
Thank you, love.
It was, I realise that. There we are. Thank you, love. Yep. Thanks a lot. 52.
Amongst the jet.
I've got it, I've read it.
Oh, you have?
I have read it.
Well, it might be maybe James heard that then.
And again, thank you.
Frank Riding, newsagent, Wigan Market Hall. It looks, Frank, looking at this stall today, that you really are a victim of your own success.
Oh, that's very true.
How long have you been here?
17 years.
And of course, when you came, your stall was much smaller than this, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 12 foot then. Now we've got 35.
What's happened?
Progress, this is our third stall. Started with 7, then went to 18, now 35. And
are you busy at all times of the week? It seems so this morning. Do you have quiet periods?
yeah, beginning of the week, not at one time. One time was every day. It was very, very good. Now you get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but on the slow side. Thursday, Friday, Saturday builds up. Good.
Are Wiganers great readers? You know, what type of stuff do they like reading?
Well, in the market hall, it's mainly for women. The ladies buy the magazine, not the gentlemen. And it's like the paperbacks we sell. We can sell 20 paperbacks for ladies for one for gentlemen. But they are great readers. Yeah.
I noticed that you have a nice little tradition here in that you put a little paper band round the paper. Why, your newspapers? Why do you do that when you sell them?
A little added service. Customers appreciate it. Come back. When they get the papers home, they're readable. They don't get torn in the bags. And I proved it, you know. They just come back and back. Yeah.
Looking forward to going into the new market hall?
Very much, yeah. Sorry to believe in this, though.
Because mainly of the atmosphere?
Atmosphere. It's a good old building, this.
Do you think all your customers will follow you?
I hope so. I think so.
Frank Riding, thanks a lot.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Well, we're on the butcher's side now and come to talk to John Chadwick. And the first question must be, John, why is your stall called Smales?
Well, 10 years ago, we bought a limited company, and while the name was established in Wigan, we carried on trading under that name. But when we go in the new market, we'll trade under our own name of Noel Chadwick.
How long's your family been in butchering in Wigan?
In Wigan, 10 years. In Standish, 3 generations.
Started by your grandfather?
Started by my grandfather.
Tell me something about Wigan as meat eaters rather than pie eaters.
Oh, they're a lot bigger meat eaters than pie eaters. A lot bigger. I should think the quality of meat in Wigan proves it, because people come in from outside towns, Manchester, Bolton, Southport, all over, because they can't get the quality of meat outside as they can in Wigan.
Looking about the market hall now, just a few months from closure, it really does look a bit tatty. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's tatty, I agree, but it needs a good clean. And that would have saved a lot of money.
I've no doubt that you'll be going into the new hall.
Yes. Not happily at present, but yes, we're going in.
Why do you say not happily? How can you cast off... It should be easy to cast off the old and take on the new.
It is, but the stall that I've been allocated is a different shape. The alleys in between the stalls will be a lot narrower. There's a lot of problems to come. The atmosphere will go, I think, to begin with.
Do you think you're accepting a challenge?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I have no other choice but to accept it.
John Chadwick, thanks a lot. Well, here we are at a very unusual named stall here in the market. It's Boobs, Bumps and Bulges. And I've come to talk to the owner, who's Kath Ashton, who comes from Oldham. What's this stall all about?
Boobs, bumps and bulges. Everything really, in ladies' underwear, shapes, sizes. Everything really.
When you think of the market hall with its old-fashioned airs, and then you look at some of the stuff you're selling, which wouldn't be much protection on a winter day, you know, is it very popular, this kind of stuff?
Yes, must be weekend. I think it's weekend underwear.
Yes. Is it bought for fun?
I presume so. I would think so. Yeah.
I understand that sometimes gentlemen come in to buy these bits and pieces for their wives. Are they embarrassed?
Some are. Some don't bother. Some come in and have a laugh with us.
Yeah.
We're nearly always looking for a male model.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not offering, are you?
Male model, yes. Fit you up any time you want.
Can I ask you about some of the other things you sell? You know, you have some Winsett underwear and stuff, conventional pieces. Yeah, tell me something about those. What about that huge pair of corsets there?
Well, we're just waiting for somebody to come in that it'll fit, but at the moment we haven't had anybody.
Yeah.
We get a lot of people passing comments that it'll fit the mother-in-law and all this, but we haven't had anybody in yet.
Do you get many quizzical looks from old gentlemen and old ladies when they pass?
Yes, we get quite a lot of people passing, especially this wall, and they'll come in and have a look and a laugh and just like comment to each other, you know, would you buy some of that for me tonight?
Can you say quite honestly that you've ever sold anything of the more exotic nature to a pensioner?
I've had a couple of older ladies in that seem to have been doing a little bit of courting, probably in the late 60s, that have come in and an odd one I've bought, yes.
And the last question is, of course, that when you look at your sign, the bumps have fallen off. Where have your bumps gone to?
I don't know, as long as they've gone. I mean, that's all you want, isn't it, really? You can do without the bumps. We don't mind the boobs, as long as you can get rid of your bumps.
Good, great.
Get rid of them here.
Thanks a lot, Cal.
Thanks.
Well, another market stall holder who needs no introduction at all is Ali Khan. And Ali, before I ask you about your stall here in the market hall, I know that you were in the old arcade, which is very near to people's hearts. Of course, it was demolished 16 years ago. What was the old arcade like?
Well, it was in heritage, really. It was called Legs of Man Arcade. It starts very wide up top and come down narrow at bottom. And there used to be two pubs, one at top, one at bottom. And there were a variety of goods being sold in the old arcade, which suited Wigan people very well in those days. And we used to do a little bit of fashion in those days, because people were so conscious wearing shirts and ties matching. And it used to be really wonderful.
Ali, when the old arcade closed, did you come to the market hall straight away?
For a short while we went to Market Street, Wigan, and from there we came into the market hall. But we did have a stall in the market hall before the old arcade was closed.
Looking at your stock here today, it's a vast variety of trousers. Are Wigan youngsters very fashion conscious?
They are, but thing is, Wigan seems to get the fashion 2 or 3 months after Manchester or Liverpool. So they go and buy it there, and then we do the same sort of things maybe a month later, and then they pick up another pair which is cheaper here than maybe Liverpool or Manchester.
Are your customers very price conscious?
Sometimes they are, but if they are looking for something what they want, then they'll pay for the garment.
Yes.
And quality these days is fantastic.
Yes.
Our goods are 100% British at present, and we are very proud of that.
Is that something that's changed in the past 10 years?
It has. We used to get the cheaper products from Far East, and it used to sometimes hit our economy, but we decided to do away with those and just do the British make.
You've obviously got a very loyal staff here.
I have. They have been with me for a long, long time, and we understand each other, and that is the way to go about.
What will you be very sorry about when the market hall closes? What will you miss most?
I think it's the character we will miss, which has been going on for 100 years in this market. And with the new development, I think it's going to be a real busy town once the development is finished. And I'm looking forward to going into the new market hall.
Thanks, Ali.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll come here to, you couldn't describe it as a quiet corner of the market hall, but it's the place where people take a breather and have a cuppa. It's the cafe bar. And come to talk to Bill Entwistle. Bill, you started the cafe bar along with your wife here, Margaret, just after the war. Can you tell me something about those days?
About the war?
Well, about setting up here after the war.
Well, after the war, this was the fire watchers' den at the time, before we took it. And then when we got it, it was just like a fenced-in premises with a little window where we started our first cups of tea from a table and a kettle in the corner. That was our first attempt there.
Margaret, can I ask you, did you ever want any more space here, or did you want to keep it nice and cosy?
Oh, I wanted it to be nice and cosy for the people to come in. When they've done their shopping, they're always ready for a cup of tea. And we only charged 2 pence, tuppence, all money, tuppence for a cup of tea.
Did people drink coffee in those days, or was it mostly tea?
They drank tea and coffee, and Horlicks, Bovril, anything, milkshakes.
Coming back to you, Bill, can I ask you, when you were here after the war, did you have any problems with rationing?
Oh, rationing was a problem because we only got our ration goods after we had sold, so that we had to sell 112, I think it was, cups of tea before we got £1 of sugar ration back. And if we needed to increase our rationing, we had to try and get more than 112 cups of tea out of £1 of sugar. The same with the bacon, the butter, and any ration goods. It was all a matter of proportioning, so that when people wanted a cup of tea, we had different sizes of spoons for the amount of sugar we put in, even a flat spoon.
What if people had a very sweet tooth and asked for 4 lots of sugar rather than 1?
People understood in those days.
Yes.
They really understood that you couldn't put more sugar there.
The amazing thing is that you've never really had any competition here in Wigan Market Hall. You're the only tea stall, the only snack bar. Why do you think this is?
That I don't know, but we had some kind of protection from the markets, market authorities, you know. But we've had a lot of competition coming around the perimeter of the market. At one time you had to pass 13 other caterers before they reached us. And we've had people come from the other side of town past these 13 caterers to have their tea here.
And of course today you're not serving cups of tea and cups of coffee, but drinking them, because in fact you handed over the business, didn't you?
Yes, when we retired, we first took our daughter into the interest, and when she had acclimatised, we kind of let her take control.
Does she look forward to the new market hall? It's going to be very different.
She is. She's ambitious in this way, that her fear is this business stopping. But it's with trepidation that we both look to the new market, because there are some gambles that we're going to have to take without, and it's going to hurt.
But she wants to go in. She wants to go in the new market.
Thanks a lot.
She's very happy.
Well, we've seen the dry goods in the market hall, and we've seen what are called the wet goods. We're now going to have a look at the fruit market. In the fruit market here, it's a lot of different smells, fresh fruit, fresh veg. And I come to talk to Ken Hall, who's been a fruiterer in here for how long, Ken?
Oh, 12 years. 12 years or more, yes.
What did you do before you came into the fruit market?
The same job, a shop, static shop and a mobile shop for the last 30 years.
People have been telling me that the market hall itself has a very special atmosphere. Do you think that atmosphere is a little different in the fruit market?
Well, I think it's a meeting place. The fruit market's a way of life on its own. It's a meeting place. People just come round, wander around, meet people, meet old school friends, you know, have a chat. They may or may not buy anything.
We can, of course, see apples, oranges and the usual kinds of fruits and veg, but you do sell what are termed exotic stuff.
Yeah.
What are they?
Exotic fruits, camarollas, apricots, kiwi fruit, root ginger, avocados, popular, star fruit, that's a camarello. Apart from the usual things, mange too, sweet corn, fennel.
And you were something of a leader in this, weren't you?
One of the first, yes. I think of it people possibly going on holidays abroad. They got these melons, 20 years ago melons wouldn't have sold, you wouldn't have sold one. Now it's just an everyday commodity melon. Everybody has melon for the tea on the Sunday, don't they? But now people are getting more adventurous in the cooking, you know, that these fruits and vegetables take a part in their everyday diet, really.
Little sad to be leaving in a few months' time?
Sad and apprehensive, I think. It could be a very good thing, the new market. It could fall down. Everybody's hoping that it'll take off, but everything isn't finished yet for another 2, possibly 3 years, and it's still going to have the upset that we've had for the last 2 years. So it's going to be a bit difficult for the first couple of years for everybody, not just the fruitmen.
But it's a challenge you have to accept.
It's a challenge we always accept, a challenge in the fruit. Surely, haven't we?
Ken, thanks a lot.
That's very good of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Edith Coop has what I suppose you might call a flowery existence. She's run this flower stall in the fruit and flower market for over 15 years. Edith, are Wiganers great flower lovers?
Oh yes, on the whole I would say so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Have they got favourite blooms?
Well, they like chrysanthemums and carnations, all the things that, you know, that most flower lovers like. They like anything, really.
People say, of course, we live in a time of recession.
Yes.
Have you seen over the years and fewer people buying flowers?
No, not really. In fact, I would say the opposite. I would say quite the opposite.
In other words, they need something to brighten their lives.
I think so. People are more flower orientated these days.
Special occasions, do they like?
Oh yes, and of course men tend to buy them more for their wives. It's the in thing, really, flowers.
Yes. Do you think men still feel a bit embarrassed at carrying bunches of flowers in the street?
I would say about 20% of men. About that, really. Yeah.
And what about the atmosphere in here? Do you notice any difference now that we're coming to the last days?
Well, obviously it's a lot quieter, especially with the fruit, but the flowers have stayed pretty much the same, really, you know. It's like our own world in here, you know.
Yes. And your own favourite flower?
My own favourite flower, I like every flower. I don't have a favourite, I like everything.
Edith, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well, this is a pretty floral scene here today, but there was another day in the history of Wigan Market Hall which was similarly bedecked with flowers, and that was on Whit Monday in 1877. It's the day the Market Hall was opened.
The historian of the future will tell how the thousands of inhabitants of this town and the neighbouring district came to see the opening of this beautiful market hall and rejoiced in the work of their hands. These words were spoken by Walter Mayhew, the Mayor of Wigan, on Whit Monday, May the 21st, 1877, when he formally opened the new Wigan Market Hall in the presence of cheering thousands. Certainly the opening of the Market Hall was one of Wigan's most historic moments, and it drew the largest gathering of people ever seen in this ancient borough up to that time. By train, by horse bus and on foot, people poured in from all points of the compass, led by the mayors and town clerks of other towns. The celebrations began at 10 a.m. when a huge procession formed outside the town hall. When the multitude moved off at 11 a.m, it was headed by the mayor and the civic dignitaries of other towns, accompanied by, among others, the 21st Lancashire Rifle Volunteers and their band, 40 members of the Odd Fellows, 20 foresters, 70 boilermakers, the Good Templars, and many other lodges. Their marching feet were kept in time by the music of brass bands, including Crook Brass Band, Hay Brass Band, and the Hindley Volunteer Band. Numerous fife and drum bands, so popular at the time, also played. It is doubtful if any Wigan procession on foot had ever covered so much ground before. Those taking part tramped all over Wigan for an hour and a half, taking in Caroline Street, Wallgate, the whole of the town centre, Scholes and Birkett Bank, before arriving at the Market Hall at about 12:30 p.m. Wigan people did the procession proud en route. The whole town was a blaze of colour, with flags and bunting, mottos, displays, and pictures everywhere, even in the poorest quarters. There was, as you might expect, a touch of the rebels in the lusty, ribald skulls of the time. Instead of the usual success to the Wigan Corporation and long live the trade and prosperity of Wigan, the people of Scholes had bedecked their area with ladies' underwear. On arrival at the Market Hall, the mayor was presented with a silver key by Mr. C.B. Holmes, the Wigan contractor, and the mayor unlocked the main door of Wigan Market Hall on the Market Street side.
Well, the years moved on, and today it's Christmas Eve outside Wigan Market Hall. Let's have a look at the atmosphere. Well, a man who needs no introduction to Wiganers is the radio reporter Dick Hatch. Dick, what's your view on the Market Hall going?
I'm very sad to see it go. Obviously it's part of Wigan life and has been since we're looking up there, 1877. But I also feel that the councillor to be congratulated in the design of the new Market Hall, because I'm sure if you use your imagination, in 10 years' time people are just not going to remember this building, is my view.
Would you have made a case for keeping this old Market Hall?
Sorry. Yes, I would, except that I was converted when I spoke to one of the engineers. Apparently, it really is in grave danger of falling down. I mean, the people who are in there now are in some danger that the roof might come in. And after all, Geoffrey, I know you and I both like to conserve original things. This is not just as it was in 1877. It's had all kinds of other concrete and brick bits added round down where the fish stalls are. It's not the original. If it was total and complete, then perhaps they should have spent a great deal of money to keep it up. But I'm converted by the excellence of the design of the galleries. I really am.
Big Hatch, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
We're talking now to Barry Arrowsmith, who is an official of the Wigan Market Tenants Association. Barry, tell me something about the fight to save the Market Hall.
Well, it started perhaps some 10 years ago when we first learned that it's going to come down, and we organised a petition which drew some 40,000 signatures, and unfortunately the Metro didn't take any notice of this. We withheld the rents, so eventually the Metro took the tenants to court. We won the first battle, but when it went to the higher court, we lost, unfortunately. So we have no leases with which to really fight about the old Market Hall.
It's sad that, in fact, you're not taking your stall into the new Market Hall. Tell me something about your stall.
Well, it's we've been here for 50 years now. My grandfather started it. It originally sold herbs, but of course the trade now has gone into vitamins and health foods and bodybuilding products. We have taken a larger store in town that shows how the trade is developing from small market stall.
And so we're here on Christmas Eve, and what's this atmosphere like?
Well, not as happy as it used to be, unfortunately. We are moving in the new year. The traders are looking more to move into the Market Hall than perhaps the Christmas trade, and people aren't as Christmassy as they used to be. There aren't as many people about, as you can perhaps see, where at one time it would have been overwhelmed with people.
Barry, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jeff.
Wigan Market Hall, the final days. That's what we called our film when we started it 4 months ago. Today, it's the 16th of January, 1988. It's the last afternoon of the Market Hall. It's faithfully served the Wigan shopping public for 34,000 days. This is the last look. Wigan Market Hall, the final days. This has been the last afternoon in Wigan Market Hall. It closes at 5 o'clock in just an hour's time. And the next time we bring the cameras here, the place will be empty. Love them or hate them, you can't ignore Wigan's twin cooling towers. They've dominated the landscape here for 40 years. Giant concrete egg cups which cool the water from the nearby Westwood power station and help quite literally to light up the town. Next week they're being demolished. Given good weather, between 15 and 20,000 people are expected to turn up to see the toppling of the pool stock towers. This film is the story, and sad to see them go, or glad to see them go, most folks admit that the modern skyline of Wigan will never seem quite the same again. And it seems that the first man we're going to talk to this morning is Stan Twigg, and 40 years ago he helped to build the cooling towers. Stan, tell me something about the job.
Well, I first of all started in 47, winter 47, really cold winter, assistant engineer on the scheme, and one of the first jobs we did was cleared all the land running about. Second job, 5-foot raft over both towers. After that, columns and beams, and then building the tower itself. Now the tower itself was very good really, in so much that we did a 3-foot lift of concrete every day without fail, weather permitting. Now there were times when it was really windy and such and things like that where we couldn't go near the thing really because of the safety aspect.
You told me earlier that one man had been killed on the job.
Yes, one man, an oldest chap, his fellow named Heaton, he was a joiner by trade, and the latter part of the job he was killed when we were actually erecting the louvelots, which were the cooling water system itself. And also we had one young man, he fell, it was early on in the job, we were just the first tower about 130, 140 feet high, and he fell off, but he broke his legs and various things, but he lived, as far as I know, but he never came back to work.
No. Did they have a devastating effect on the skyline of Wigan as they went up?
Well, I think so, really, in so much that it's like, so wherever you went round and about Wigan, you could always see them, and they were like growing, really, as you can realise. The 3 foot a day is quite a lot a day, like a week, 6 days a week worked in those days, so you're taking about 18 feet every week, so, you know, they really went to town kind of thing with them.
And what about the day they demolished them? Will you be here?
Well, I won't be. I don't suppose I would just run about here because, like anywhere around Wigan now, you can always see them, can't you? So I'll just get correct time, then go find the vantage point and just watch them go down.
You built them. Are you sorry that they're going?
Yeah, I am sorry that they're going, really, because they've always been a landmark, and like since those days, I've been 2 or 3 places. I've been to Libya for 2.5 years, and the Emirates for 2.5 years, the Gulf State, and they always, when I used to come M56, M6, when I got to Goose Green, I always thought I was home because the roundabout there, the towers were there, and I was home again.
And Stan Twigg, thanks. The site supervisor here at Westwood Power Station is Peter Haslam, and he's got a special little tale to tell us. Peter, tell me something about the delay in the demolition of the cooling towers.
Well, the actual delay was they actually found something in the timber, and you know, they just couldn't they just delayed the whole action of bringing the cooling towers down. It was just something that was in the timber, in the base of the actual cooling towers, and they had to they had to just postpone it for the time being,
The funny thing was that despite all the publicity, some people still came down.
That's right, yeah. Even though, it was in the papers that they weren't coming down until a later date, people were still coming down, waiting down at the cooling towers. Some people came to the actual gates and asked why weren't they coming down today. They just hadn't realised, that it had been postponed. It's as simple as that.
What will be your job next Sunday?
I don't know really. I mean, I'm going to be here now until till it's actually demolished completely, which is approximately another 12 months. What I'll be doing after that, I've no idea. Whether they just move me on to another site or whatever. But until then, I'm here now for another 12 months.
Peter from Centurion Security, thanks a lot.
No, Centurion, thanks very much.
Dominic Ogden, you're a director of Fred Ogden, which is one of the few companies in this country, you're from Sheffield, to actually do this kind of work. Tell me what it involves bringing down Wigan cooling towers.
Well, it involves an awful lot of drilling with our operatives from within inside the cooling tower. We drill about approximately a yard area within the shell area, approximately 30 feet up the shell, with pneumatic breaker tools, working from a telescopic aerial platform. We drill 2/3 of the inner side face of the shell up to place the explosive charges in, and we also drill up 2/3 of the cooling tower support legs at the base. There's approximately 5 holes within each support column, and there's a pattern of 5 holes on the shell area to be removed. This is like the old domino spot of 5. It's positioned like that with an 18-inch distance apart between the outer 2 rows of holes. An explosive charge is placed within each hole. Primarily we do a test blast consisting of approximately 11 holes in the shell and 1 support column, and we remove that with an estimated amount of explosive charge, and once that has been successfully removed to our satisfaction, we then either we leave the explosive quantity at that amount, but if the results aren't to our satisfaction, we then either raise the explosive quantity or drop the explosive quantity to the requirements of removing the concrete section of leg.
We've just seen some of your lads bringing out some explosives. Does that mean that today Westwood Power Station is going to be made totally secure and the public won't be allowed here until after the demolition's over?
That's a yes. We place the explosive charges during the daytime period, and at the night-time period we have a 24-hour security person on site to ensure that these explosive charges are maintained secure. They are cemented into the holes which we have created during the drilling process using a hard stem material, which is like a fast-setting plaster material which contains the explosive charge anyway. So it makes it very hard to remove the explosive charges, but as I said earlier, they're approximately 30 feet up the shell area anyway, and they're very hard to remove by any nasty people, which there are quite a few about in this country. Yeah. We also have the police will be coming on a daily basis throughout the daytime period, and they're also coming approximately 4 times during the night-time period, just to ensure that the explosive charges are maintained secure.
How much explosives do you have to use?
There's approximately £100 to be used per cooling tower to demolish them. And as I explained, this is spaced out in various different areas. It's not set in one spot. It's spaced out in a consistent fashion throughout the 2/3 of the shell and the leg area.
How long's the preparation taken?
It takes approximately 2 to 3 weeks to drill each cooling tower up to place the holes in. There's approximately 1,000 holes in each cooling tower, and then it takes approximately 6 days to charge the cooling towers up.
How many lads have you working on site?
On the cooling tower operation, there's myself, who is the explosives engineer. I am classed as a competent person to handle the explosive charges, and there are 4 additional site employees to help me with that job.
Dominic, thanks a lot.
Okay. But we're now down at the towers, and as I explained to you previously, you can see up there the explosive charges that we place for our test blast purposes in the shell area, and the leg that we train the test blast on, the support column, is there. As you can see, the concrete has been removed to our satisfaction, and consequently the explosive charges are now being placed to the correct set amount. The explosive charges are placed in the boreholes, which you can see there, approximately 5 per column, and the holes in the shell, which you may be able to see, but it's pretty dark in there, are now going to begin being placed with our telescopic aerial platform there. Once the explosive charges have been placed, the day on the actual detonation, the actual day of detonation is the day that the detonators are to be placed. So therefore the explosive charges have been placed throughout the week period, but the system is not in effect armed, so it's quite safe really. When the detonators are placed, there are detonators placed on every column, support column at the bottom, which is the main area of to obtain collapse. There are also additionally 2 to 3 detonators placed on the shell area to arm that system. The difference between the shell and the support columns is approximately 75 to 100 milliseconds delay period, which is inbuilt within the detonators. That way all the legs explode, and then a split second later the shell explodes. To the layman it appears one explosion, but as a matter of fact there are 2 separate explosions, which minimises both ground vibration and air overpressure. When both explosions have taken place, the cooling towers drop to what is left remaining of the support columns. Once this impacts on the pond bottom, you have a secondary cut which has been taking place, which is in the shell area where your other explosive charges were placed. That causes a secondary cut, which causes your cooling tower to drop a further 30 feet. Once the cooling tower then impacts on the base of the pond for the second time, you get the telescopic aerial collapse straight downwards within itself.
In other words, in a way, they'll be like old ladies bowing out.
That's it, yes, exactly.
Thanks again. And so in 8 days' time, the cooling towers here in Poolstock will be demolished. But there's still a lot to be told in this story. You could, to all intents and purposes, call today the start of a wake on the Kittiwake. The councillors from Wigan and the guests are going to sail in the Kittiwake, which is their canal boat, up to the cooling towers to take a last lingering look.
Are they really?
The Wigan Borough Planning Officer is John Sloan. John, the cooling towers are going with 2 days to go. What do you as a planner think of concrete structures like this?
Well, not a lot. I should be very pleased to see them go. It's been my ambition for a long time to see eyesores like this removed from the landscape of Wigan.
Can you understand why some people have become sentimental about them?
Not really, no. In my view, they are, well, to use Prince Charles's terms, they are two of the biggest carbuncles that remain in the Wigan skyline at the present time.
Does it please you that so many people hopefully are going to come and see them go? Do you think they're sad or glad?
I think people will realise in the end that this will be a major benefit to the town, and I think people will be glad to see them. Obviously there's sentimentality associated with lots of things when they're removed, but certainly it will be a very spectacular event on Sunday when they do go.
Well, they're 40 years old. Can you ever see a day when someone's going to say, hey, we'd better preserve one of those for the future?
Well, it'll be too late to preserve one in Wigan by that time, but I'm sure there'll be other ones in other parts of the country that can be preserved.
John Sloan, thanks.
One-man level crossings. One of them over the main.
Well, here we have Adrian Hardy, who's a Wigan planner, and he's been one of the men organising this mammoth event. What's it been like?
Oh, exhausting, I think is the best way to describe it. We've been doing this now. Well, we started getting ready for December the 4th, and of course you know we had a slight hiccup then, and we had to arrange for all the wood to be taken out, which has caused a 6-week delay. You'd think that would make life easier for us, but I think it's probably compounded the problems that we created for ourselves.
In fact, Adrian, what was wrong with this wood that delayed the project?
Well, it had been impregnated with some arsenic compounds to preserve it, because it's continually soaking in water, and we had to clarify with the Water Authority whether we could safely tip this off the site. We had some tests done on the wood, and strange enough it came up with copper as being the major problem, and we were very concerned that this shouldn't leach into the water around the area, because all the flashes there are very good fisheries and very important for nature purposes. So we weren't prepared to take the risk, and we decided to take it out and take it to a licensed tip, and that's what's caused the 6-week delay.
Why do you think there's so much public interest in the demolition of Wigan cooling towers? We're expecting maybe 15,000, 20,000 people if the weather's good.
Well, I think everyone has always had it in their hearts to watch some of these things come down. I've seen them on the television myself, if only I could have been there. So I think there's that sort of curiosity. And of course, you always hope that they may not fall down in any case, and you'll be even there then at quite a memorable occasion. But I think also, as far as Wigan's concerned, they are very important landmarks, visible from all over the borough. And I think it's going to be a mixed feeling when we see them actually crumple into little heaps of concrete at the bottom.
Adrian Hardy, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And another man with a story to tell about the demolition cooling towers is Ray Blakey, who's also with Wigan Planning Department. Well, Ray, I think it's interesting that some people in Wigan will be really pleased to see the cooling towers go because they think they're quite dreadful. As a planner, what do you think of them?
I think we've still got enough left in the country for us not to be too concerned yet, and from Wigan's point of view the loss of the towers would be well worthwhile for the benefits that we'll get from it. I think one day there'll come a time when someone will list some of these towers, Ferry Bridge where you've got them on the A1, fairly close to the road, well-known landmark. and they'll need to keep some of them as a historic record, but I don't think we need to keep ours yet.
A personal view rather than a planner's view. Can you see any beauty in a cooling tower at all?
I suppose as a sculptural object, it's a very simple and pleasing shape, and they form part of an industrial landscape. I think that when we do come to the stage where we keep some, I think we've got to choose them carefully and get whatever aesthetic value we can from them.
As far as you being a planner in Wigan's concerned, do you think that in 10 years they'll be forgotten, or do you think in 50 years the old people will say, well, I remember the cooling towers when I was a lad?
As a recent arrival in Wigan, I don't know that will be the case, but I'm sure there will be people who will remember them. I think that the people who remember them going up are probably the people who will remember them best. I mean, they're only 40 years old. There are a lot of people who have seen them go up and they'll see them come down as well, and they may well remember them.
Ray Blakey, thanks a lot. Well, it's the last dawn here at Wigan Cooling Towers. It's just after 8 o'clock on Sunday, the 15th of January. Difficult to believe, really, that in 2 hours they'll have gone.
Yeah, shooting already. Let's Robert today. David Mother. Right. Nice to meet you. I'll flip you to me on Friday.
Follow the cars there. We're going to have a problem here.
Very nice. Yeah.
The chairman of Wigan Planning Committee is John Hilton, and of course John has had quite a lot to do with the planning of the new site. John, but we're not talking about the new site this morning, we're talking about these things over here described as monstrous carbuncles. What do you think of the cooling towers?
Well, they are obviously a landmark in the town, but quite clearly we have got very good plans for this area, and it is part of the scheme that they must be demolished so that we can have an overall development of the site.
As a planner, have you ever heard of a cooling tower being put to some other use once it was redundant?
I haven't personally, no. There are a lot of problems, of course, with the demolition. The main problem that we've been faced with is a hazard of asbestos, so we had to make sure that we did demolish them safely, particularly for the residents of the borough and now future generations.
Some people glad to see them go. Are you glad?
Well, I'm glad to see them go because I know what's going to be coming in their place, but quite clearly there will be some people nostalgic, viewing how they got the power in Wigan for all these number of years, but it is a redundant power station, and we feel that we've got a better use for this land, and that's part of it.
Can you see there being any landmark for people going along the M6 in future? There's always been the cooling towers and the chimneys are going in the autumn.
Well, this will be a landmark, of course. This will become, we hope, a very attractive country park. It will be a very prestigious development, we hope. And there is a marina planned for here, and of course the new road linking the M6 with the east of the country, people will be familiar with it, there's no doubt at all about that.
But meanwhile, in the next half hour, we're going to have a good free show with these going.
Oh yes, yes. I hope everyone enjoys themselves. It'll be a big bang.
John Hilton, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Les Roberts is the appeals organiser for Wigan Hospice, and they today are playing a part in the demolition of the cooling towers. Tell me something about how it affects you.
Well, we did a draw on it, Jeff, that raised a considerable amount of money, nearly £5,000, and with the help of all the schools and the clubs and the people and everyone, we're quite pleased with that. And the draw was made, and the young lady from Ashton in Makerfield won it, and she's delighted.
Of course, the thing to say is that from the hospice you can see the cooling towers, can't you?
Indeed, yes. I've been in this morning, and all the nurses and staff and patients who are all want to watch it, and they're taking them all out so they can see it even from the hospice, which is wonderful, really.
Will you miss them?
I think we will. I think everyone in Wigan will as well. It's such a landmark. I think while it's a good thing, I think there's a tinge of regret in everybody that they're disappearing.
Les, thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
I'm now talking to Mike and Eileen Booth, who live in... Where do you live, Mike?
Ashton in Makerfield.
And if I can say that this is the gentleman who won the raffle to bring down one of these towers, but in fact, he's not going to press the button. That's intriguing. Why?
Well, I suspect it's a little bit of sentiment. The towers have been around us for 3 generations, all of which are represented here today. And I feel that it means something to me. I served an engineering apprenticeship in the shadow of the towers, and I feel that the young one of today, Leslie, my daughter, should press them, being, well, more to the future and progress, and that's it, a little bit of sentiment.
Eileen, you were the one as a hospice helper who sold the ticket. Were you glad that your husband decided to pass over this task?
Yes, I was very glad, yes. I was quite excited, actually. Selling so many tickets and, you know, our name coming up was just, well, to me it was wonderful.
But you did want to keep it in the family?
Yes, I did.
Thanks a lot. Well, Leslie, you're the girl who's going to blow up one of these cooling towers. How do you feel about it?
Powerful. I must admit, I wasn't really very excited, but now I'm here. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Is it exciting that probably 15,000 people are actually going to be...
I didn't expect so many people, no.
And I can see that you've come prepared. Come on, put your hat on.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Leslie, thanks.
Thank you.
Say when. Yeah. Right. And a little surprise here, which in fact I know Leslie doesn't know about, is that the hospice officials are going to present her with a little present this morning for her efforts.
We are, indeed. It's a photograph of the towers as they stand now, and they'll disappear in a few minutes, and she will be responsible.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Not at all.
Wigan MP Roger Stott. Really, Roger, you need no introduction. What do you feel about these cooling towers this morning?
Well, a very sentimental morning, isn't it, Geoffrey? I've been a Member of Parliament now for 16 years, and I use the train regularly to go to London. And the best thing about London is the train back to Wigan. And the first thing you see when you come across the flashes is the 2 cooling towers, so you know you're coming home. And on Friday, I looked out the window and I thought, my goodness me, this is probably the last time I'll see these things standing. Yeah, it is a very sentimental morning, really, isn't it?
What do you think you'll look for when you're pulling into Wigan or pulling out of Wigan in the future?
Well, I think what we'll look for is this brand new development that's coming down here. I'm very excited about that. This town is really buzzing at the moment. There's lots of good things happening, and it's a very good, very go-ahead council, as you know. And this new park we're going to have down here, I think it's going to be really something.
Are you going to be taking photographs in the next few minutes?
I'm not. Gillian's the photographer. She's got a tripod set up over there, so she'll be taking the photographs for posterity.
Roger, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
That didn't take long, did it? So number 1 cooling tower has gone. We don't know how many people saw it, but my goodness, it made a big bang.
I was waiting for the moment.
Well, as I said, 1 cooling tower left, but 2 gentlemen here who've both played a part in the Wigan electricity generating station. One is Mike Stanton, who was the last manager, Mike, and the other one is Gilbert West. You, Gilbert, were a long-serving employee here.
Yes, indeed.
Tell me something about it.
Well, the power station was originally commissioned by the Wigan Corporation in 47 prior to nationalisation, and so this is really the end of the era. And there have been other managers, of course, before me, and I retired slightly early, and Mr. Stanton, of course, has seen it off. But it's a very sad occasion for both for me and I'm sure for many of the other Westwood employees.
Mike, does it look very peculiar there, just with 1 cooling tower standing?
Well, it does rather. I took over Westwood in 1985 and was responsible for redeploying the staff and really closing the books as far as the generating board was concerned before the sale to Wigan Metro. So, like Gilbert, it's a rather sad occasion, but nevertheless, life moves on, and that's part of the scene.
In fact, you've seen them die twice, haven't you then, really, because you would see them lose their function and now today go forever.
That's right. From 1985, there's very little generation done of electricity here. It was largely a question of making the site safe, but really more importantly, redeploying the staff.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Tim Grundy is well known from Radio Piccadilly, and he has 2 helpers here, and they're going to have their hand, all 3 of them, on the plunger when the next tower comes down in about 7 minutes' time. Tim, ever done anything like this before?
No, I haven't actually. No, it's the first time, and I'm really looking forward to it. I was thought as I drove towards Wigan and saw those massive cooling towers this morning, I thought, I can't believe that in a short while they're not going to be there anymore. But, it's a great honour to be blowing them up. Sounds a strange thing to say, but it is.
And your name is?
Simon.
Simon, where are you from, Simon?
Chadderton.
Yeah, and who bought the ticket for you to take part in this?
Well, it was the school who was handing them out, and I just brought one.
Yeah. And of course you've never done anything like this?
No.
What do you think when the first tower came down?
It's good.
Yeah. And your name is?
Gail.
Gail, you're from?
Brightramsden High School.
Yeah. What did you think when that came down?
Just scared me to death. Yeah.
Did you actually take a picture of it?
No, I didn't.
But something that you'll remember for the rest of your life, I suppose.
I think so.
Folks, thank you very much indeed. Well, we have seen a flag here. The cooling towers have gone, and the last one was blown up by 3 people associated with Booth Hall and its appeals. What do you think about it?
wonderful. It's a bit like being in a pea soup at the moment. Absolutely fantastic. I don't think Wigan's going to look the same again.
Wigan cooling towers at Booth Hall Children's Hospital in Manchester. What's the tie-up?
There's a great big tie-up. There's a lot of Wigan children who use Booth Hall Children's Hospital. Our catchment area is from Cumbria right the way down to Wrexham, over onto the Welsh borders and into Yorkshire. So, you know, an awful lot of your children will come to the regional speciality units we have at Booth Hall. We're very pleased to see you.
Any ideas how much this little thing will have raised?
It'll have raised nearly £2,000 and, you know, that's very kind of you, and we thank the people of Wigan for letting us be involved with you today.
Tina, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Leslie, you did number 1. How did it feel?
Oh, fantastic. Really good.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Would you like to do others?
Yeah, every day I would. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Leslie, thank you.
Okay.
Fred Ogden, main man for this demolition company. How did it go this morning?
Very well indeed. The slight hiccup between the first and second one, when there was slight damage created because of the boggy ground and the amount of rain we've had. All couldn't be foreseen, but nevertheless all overcome within minutes, ready for the successful drop of the second one.
Is it easy to bring cooling towers down?
Relatively. I mean, people are aware these days of what needs to be done on the technical side of placing the charges, etc. So there's no secrets or anything.
And of course, have you got any of these cooling towers in where you are in Sheffield?
There are some, yes, but they're going to be reutilised for a new type power station development. But there are still plenty around the country. In fact, we've 2 to do now in Acton Lane, nearly in the middle of London. That's our next cooling tower project.
But you've a lot of work still to do on this side here?
We've a lot of work to do here, yes. Yes.
Fred Ogden, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor David Cayley, Mayor of Wigan. Well, you're used to going to official dinners and various things like that. What did you think of this, Mr. Mayor?
Well, it went off at a bang, certainly, didn't it? It's quite a terrific spectacle. It's sad in some ways, I suppose, to see one of the old landmarks going, but, you know, it's part of progress, I suppose. We want to develop the site. This is what we've got to do. But,
do you think this is going to prove to be Wigan's biggest free show this year?
Probably, judging by the number of people. We should have gone round there Hatterling and collected for the Mayor's charity or something, I think. But, yes, oh, there's a lot of people came from all over. You can see them from the top. We were on the top of the building, so in an excellent view, you know.
But you yourself enjoyed it?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. The story of the demolition of Wigan cooling towers comes to its end. And without any doubt, on this January Sunday morning, it's provided a more splendid and spectacular free show.